News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Ricks. President Trump says the U.S. plans to run Venezuela now until there's a proper transition of power after capturing and flying President Nicolas Maduro out of the country.
This was one of the most stunning, effective and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
Trump says Maduro's on a U.S. ship bound for New York now, where he'll face a revised indictment on narco-terrorism and weapons charges.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States.
The president says he watched every minute of the U.S. operation overnight, including a series of overnight strikes in Venezuela, which led to Maduro's arrest. The Venezuelan government confirms military and civilian targets were hit in 3 states. Bloomberg's Nathan Hager has more on that from Washington.
This does mark a major escalation of a months-long campaign that has included deadly strikes on suspected drug-running boats, a blockade on oil tankers, and a CIA-led strike on a Venezuelan docking area thought to be used by drug cartels. Just yesterday, President Maduro hosted a high-level Chinese delegation in Caracas. Now, it's not clear whether those diplomats were still in the country at the time of the attack, but global leftist leaders have taken to social media to condemn the strike. We've already heard from Russia, Colombia, Cuba, Brazil's President Lula, and Mexico, all rejecting the military action by the U.S.
Bloomberg's Nathan Hager reports Venezuela's oil infrastructure was not damaged. Venezuelan opposition leader and Nobel Peace Laureate Maria Corina Machado posted on X that they're ready to honor their mandate and assume power. Her stand-in candidate in the 2024 elections, Edmundo Gonzalez, also followed up, saying he's ready for Venezuela's reconstruction. Earlier today, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona posted on X calling the strikes illegal, saying there's no reason for us to be at war with Venezuela. And Massachusetts Congressman Jake Aikencloth tells Bloomberg President Trump didn't have the authority to attack Venezuela and doesn't have a strategy for what's next.
Had he come to Congress seeking authority, the first questions he would have been asked by veterans like me on both sides of the aisle is, what's your plan to prevent the blood for oil escapades of Iraq from transferring into the jungles of Latin America? We don't want boots on the ground there. And at this point, after this strike, Rubio might say, oh, this is the last strike we have. That's no longer our choice. What happens if they target Americans who are in Venezuela for reprisal? We're going to have to respond to that. We have now opened up a Pandora's box, absent approval from the American public.
Democratic Congressman Jake Aikencloth of Massachusetts. He says it was never about drugs, but about seizing Venezuelan oil. Lester Munson is an international practice principal at BGR Group. He tells Bloomberg President Trump isn't required to notify lawmakers, but he should answer their questions.
I think the more the president can talk to Congress, the better. He's not required to. Obviously, as this rolls out, Congress is going to have a lot of questions about what happened and what's going to happen and what are the follow-on activities and what do we expect in the future with respect to the U.S. relationship with Venezuela. Those are key questions. Congress has a right to ask them, and the administration should provide very good answers. You just have to look back to our experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan to see how important that can be.
Lester Munson of BGR Group on Bloomberg this morning. This is by far the largest U.S. deployment in the region since the 1989 invasion of Panama to oust dictator Manuel Noriega. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance wrote on social media today that the president offered multiple off-ramps to Maduro, saying Maduro doesn't get to avoid justice for drug trafficking in the U.S. because he lives in a palace in Caracas. Mariana Atencio is a Venezuelan journalist and author and weighed in on the situation in Venezuela, telling Bloomberg she hopes the U.S. finishes the job.
This regime has been giving our oil to Russia, to Iran, to Cuba for the past 2 decades. We have now known from the humanitarian crisis that resulted in our country that everyday people in Venezuela are not getting that money to have a better livelihood. This regime is also making money off of drug trafficking. Not only in recent years, this has been going on for decades.
Venezuelan journalist Mariana Atencio.
Viva Nicolás Maduro!
Some Venezuelans in Caracas are enraged at the U.S., calling the strikes a gross overstep of power. But many others are celebrating Maduro's capture there and in the U.S. That crowd's in Doral, Florida, where people sang both the U.S. and Venezuelan national anthems, marking a moment many say they've waited decades to see. This man reflected on years of displacement under the governments of Hugo Chavez and Maduro.
So it's 26 years of, of waiting and waiting for a better Venezuela that's free. And now they're going to be able to all go back and enjoy with their families.
Doral is home to one of the largest Venezuelan populations in the U.S. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Ricks, and this is Bloomberg.